Jai Shri Krishna. Welcome to the Gita discussions. This is a program number 11, where program by program we are looking at the verses of Bhagavad Gita in sequentially from chapter 1 as we explore the thoughts and concepts contained therein. Gita Discussions is a program of the International Gita Forum Caribbean and IETV. Today we continue with chapter 5. We have in studio with us our senior Pandit and consultant to the International Gita Forum, Pandit Vickramaditya Maharaj. Panditji, we continue.
Yeah. So we do over verse 23 of chapter 5, where Lord Krishna says to Arjun, Shaktuhi vaivasodam prakasharira vimokshana Kama krodho bhavamavegam sayukta sa sukhi naraha. In this life, Arjun, what is important is to be able to resist the temptation for evil, for anger, for desire. Resist that temptation. And who could resist that temptation but a yogi? And such a person is a happy person. Yo anta sukantara ramas tataya jyotirevaya sayoge brahmaniravanam brahma bhutho digarchati. And that happiness you will derive is a happiness that is inside of you, within you. He says such a person becomes one with Brahman. He sees Brahman in everything, he sees Brahman in himself, and then he becomes one with Brahman. Labante brahmanirvana mrishayakshina kalamasha chinana dvaida yatatmana sarvabhuta hiterata. When the sins or the wrongs that we have done in this world is removed from us, the mind becomes disciplined. We delight. We become delighted in the welfare of others. We are happy. That is what service does to us. It gives us that we see people progress. For the 10 years, 5 years from now, we were talking about the Bhagavad Gita program we have in the school. 5 years from now, if these children really implement it, wouldn't we be happy to see what they have done with it?
And they would be happy.
We will be more happy than them because they didn't waste our time. So we are delighted at their welfare, that they're benefiting from it. And these rishis, these munis, these mahatmas, they find this beauty in Brahman. Kama krodha viyuktanam yati namayata chetasam abhito brahmaniravanam varatate viditatmanam. This happiness that we derive from the Supreme is a happiness that we will enjoy in this life. It is a happiness that will go with us into our next life. But to acquire it, we must give up anger. We must give up lust. We must control the mind. And we must realize the self. If you want better, you have to work for it. It's not a free gift. Sparashan kritva bahirvyahash chakchushvaitantare bruvo pranapanau samo kritva nasabyanta charadinau Yatendriya mano buddhir muni moksha parayana bigatte cha bhaya krodo ya sada mukta eva saha. I say to you, Arjun, the time is going to come when you are able to shut out all the material things, all the external objects, and your mind will focus on that spot which we call the third eye. Controlling the breath at that stage, how we breathe. With our senses, our mind, our intellect, totally under control. The purpose is liberation. Those who have cast away that desire, that fear, that anger, in that final moment, Arjun, they have liberated themselves from the bondage of birth and death. Bhoktadam yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva shanti mrichati. Know me, Arjun, as the Lord of all yagya. Know me as the Lord of all penance. Know me to be the ruler of the world. Know me to be the friend of each and everyone. Such an individual will attain peace. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastri Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvadi Sannyas Yognam Panchamo Adhyayah. Bolo Shri Govinda Bhagavani Ki Jai.
Thus, viewers, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahm, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna ends the 5th chapter entitled The Yoga of Action and Knowledge. Panditji, as we complete chapter 5, we now turn our attention to chapter 6 as we continue our discussions on Bhagavad Gita. Panditji.
Dhyana Yoga. Sri Bhagavan Vach. Anashrita karama phalam karyama karama karutiya sasanyasi cha yogi cha naniraviganaya cha kriyaha. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna that those who perform their duty without seeking the rewards of the duty, he is a sannyas. He is a yogi. Not he who is without fire and who is without rights. You know, there's two different things. People, one, we have misinterpreted what these things mean. That to renounce is you must work to renounce, and you must work at your karma, renounce the fruit of the karma, and then you become a sannyas. Yam sannyāsamiti prāhur yogamatam vidi pandava nahya sankalpo yogi bhavati kashtanaha. Know that, O Arjuna, which is called sannyas. For none becomes a yogi without renouncing sankalp. Sankalp is when you take certain vows as you go along. That is what sankalp is. Aduruksho munira yogam karma karanamuchyati yogarudasya tasyaiva shamakaramuchyati. And karma is the vehicle that the munis use to acquire yoga. Serenity or peace is said to be the means. When he has attained yoga, that is the product he gets for it. So karma is the key to it. When we perform karma, we will develop. And the more we develop, it ends in nirvana, it ends in peace. Yadahi nindyarateshu nakarama swanusajjati sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogarudastadochyati. When you have renounced all sankalp, then you have attained yoga. Not one, not two, all. One does not get attached to the sense objects. Do not be attached to things in this world. It's not easy to accomplish. But you know what? If you don't start, you could never have a finish. You must start at some point. Uddade datmanatmanam natmana manasadaye atmaiva hyatmano bandhu ratmaiva ripu atmana. The human being has been designed to spiritually uplift himself by himself. He also has been designed to degrade himself by himself. I say to you, Arjun, you have to decide whether you want to be your friend or you want to be your own enemy. You decide that for yourself. So here Lord Krishna is establishing that we blame nobody for it. We blame ourselves for having failed ourselves. This is the key. Because the Gita teaches us to uplift ourselves, to become one with God. And if we fail, then we cannot blame anybody for not teaching us. We blame ourselves for being failures.
Take responsibility for ourselves.
You must seek responsibility for what you have done. Bandhuratmatmana tasya yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatreva varatatatmaiva shatruvan. Those who have conquered themselves, Arjun, they have become their friends. And those who have not conquered themselves, they have become their own enemy. And that is a dangerous enemy to deal with yourself. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahitaha shitoshan sukha dukkheshu tatamana pamanayo. The one who has self-discipline is a individual. Pleasure, pain, heat, cold, honor, dishonor, it means nothing to him. Whatever comes, it comes. Whatever goes, it goes. He remains at peace. He remains calm with himself. And Pandit, this is one of the verses that people use to say Hindus are very passive people and they allow things. You understand? That is not true. Those things were never true. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutasto Vijitendriya Yukta Ityujjate Yogi Samalo Tashmakangshanaha. That yogi is firm, is steadfast, who is satisfied with knowledge and wisdom. Nothing could shake him, for he has conquered the senses. And having conquered the senses, Arjun, what he sees in mud, stone, gold, he sees the same thing. It has the same value to him. Those things mean nothing to him. Suhrinan martudasena madhyasdveshta bandashu sadhu swapya papeshu samabuddhir vishishyati. He stands supreme, who has equal regards to friends, to companions, to enemies, to neutral, to relatives, to saints and to sinners. He doesn't judge anybody. The only person you could judge is yourself. Set standards for yourself and judge yourself by yourself. Yogi yunjata satata atmanam rahase stita ekaki yata chittatma nirasharira parigraha. The yogi is one who should try to concentrate on living in solitude, subduing his mind, his body. He gets rid of all the possession that he has. Nowhere does this say you're going in the forest and live. Living in solitude, give up the responsibilities of the home. Let whoever in the home, let them manage it from there at that point in time. And subdue the mind. Get rid of the desire that you have. Get rid of the possessions that you have in this world. You cannot carry it with you when you go from here. Shuchau deshe pratishtapya stiramana samatmana natyutritam nati nicham chaila jinakushotaram. In your home you find a clean place. You know, most homes have that, a little puja room somewhere. When you go to the puja, they have a special place where they do the puja. You fix that place, clean place, with a nice seat, not too high, not too low. Now because of the age we live in, and now because of medical complications, it is very difficult for some people to sit on the floor. So the pira getting higher and higher. The pira now become a chair. Right? Nowhere says that. It says, listen, if you are comfortable, sit on the chair. But if you cannot sit on the floor to do puja, you won't put the bedi on the table and do it? Well, then stop doing it. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
No, Hinduism caters for all needs. That is what people don't understand. We cater for every need that you have. You sit flat on the ground. As you get a little older, you get a little pira. Then you find the pira get a little higher. Then it becomes a chair. You know what? Then sometimes you can't sit on the chair because of certain arthritis that you have. You lie down in a bed. The bed becomes the bedi now. Nothing is wrong with that. But when you are strong and healthy, you spread this kush grass with a deer skin, with a cloth, all covering one another. And there's a reason for these things. If you put on the bare earth the kush grass, the deer skin, will prevent certain insects from coming around it. So we don't have that environment here. So we make it comfortable. Tatra ekagram mana kritva yatata chendriya kriya upavishyasane yunjad yogamatma vishuddhyati. And when you sit there, Arjun, you make your mind one-pointed. And you practice this discipline for the purpose of purifying yourself. That is who you are concerned with, the self. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayanna chalam stira sanprekshya nasikagram swam dishashchana valokayan. You sit with the body firm, holding the neck erect. You gaze in on the tip of the nose. Stop looking around. I mean, you know, frightening it is sometimes we go to do puja, and while the puja going on, the fella's cell phone ring, he say, Babs, hold on, let me take this. You wasting my time. I leave you ready. You wasting God's time, you wasting my time too. I mean, if for that few minutes you can't focus, nobody says to sit down and do this thing for 12 hours. Nobody, nowhere in Sanatana Dharma it says that. It says do it for 1 minute, for 10 seconds, but be committed to that 10 seconds that you are doing it. That is what Sanatana Dharma wants from us. Whenever we do anything, we must be committed to doing it. Prashantatma bikatvi brahmachara briti sitaha manasanyam machachito yukta asita matparaha. You become at peace with yourself. You become fearless. Firm in this vow that you have taken, Arjun. Subdue the mind. And you sit there in yoga, thinking of me. Your intention should be upon me and me alone. So this is not something you could wake up one morning and start to do it. This is something we have to start from small. When we go back into our childhood, we father never sent me to light a day in the puja room. When we were growing up.
Actually, in my case, what I did is, seeing him having a puja area, I created one for myself.
But when you were living in the same house he was living in?
Yeah. Same house.
Yeah. No. You never had to go light a day in the puja room?
Yeah.
He didn't know that fire was dangerous? A lighted grain, how much is a dangerous thing in a person's hand, you know?
Yeah, but at the age, at the time I would have been lighting the earth, would have been fine.
It's still dangerous.
Yeah.
So because you get older, it's not dangerous. But the point is, you have to start. And I like the point you make. When I see what he did, I went and developed my own.
Yeah.
That is what it says. Your intention is the key to it. So the intention is to develop what you have seen that he has produced. Your intention was to develop one like that.
You know, why I hesitated, I was just thinking back. Growing up in a Pandit home, I mean, there was a share in this. Never once did I ever feel a compulsion or a force, or like you say, to be told, go and do that.
No. You fall in.
Yeah, it just comes naturally.
You fall into it.
I could never want, I mean, not once, as I recall, I mean, I'm an old man now, right, in many ways. But as a child growing up, my father never once told us become a Pandit. He never once told me, same point you make, even the idea of go and light a diya. No.
You fall in.
Yeah. You just follow without.
Right. Like we as boys, we would be playing in the road, playing in the yard. And by the time the instruction was, don't let 6 o'clock meet you outside.
Right, fine.
So when you're reaching there.
Broad guideline.
That's a broad guideline.
Yeah.
So when you're reaching there 6 o'clock, what you would see? You would see your father head into the bathroom. Right? He didn't go to bed because he bathed hours before. But he go to wash his hand, wash his face, wash his foot. So you learn, you see, this time of the day, now it's time to wash hand, wash foot. Once you wash hand, wash foot, you head to the puja room. Because that's what you're seeing every day. When you come out of the puja room, you swing by the kitchen, food waiting for you. So it becomes automatic for those who are in it. What about those who are not in it?
No, but that's the point, which is why our society, how is developing now and what has happened. Is it that these values that we never thought about are no longer in many homes being practiced, that is giving rise to the challenges that we see in?
Probably. It's easy, like you say, Growing up in a Pandit house is easy to follow. But what about the guy who doesn't grow up in that environment?
No, but there are children who grew up in Pandit's home and didn't follow it.
Well,
Also,
karma,
it's different.
like them karma, them will reap the fruit of that. So what I'm saying, this is what we now have to go back to the schools and teach our children. Why do you wash your foot at 6 o'clock in the evening or before 6 o'clock in the evening? You understand? You teach
But even something we've been trying to develop for years too. Families at least once a week just sit home together and perform Havan together. To spend time in with, you know, and I'm not talking Pandit homes, we're talking average Hindu homes. You know, in other words, where are you spending the time to ensure transmission of values like this?
So it has to be a two-sprung attack. The attack has to come from home with the child.
Right.
And the attack has to be continued in the school with the teacher. But if the teacher is not on par with this, and the parent is not on par with this, giving a child these scriptures to carry home in their house will mean absolutely nothing.
If there isn't follow-up from the home.
There has to be a follow-up, a two-sprung attack on this thing. You see, because you are playing with the mind. You're playing with people's mind, and people don't understand. When we say mind, all people just talk about the mind as being one thing. How does the mind operate? The mind operates at 4 different levels. One is called man, which creates the thoughts, the feeling, the desire, buddhi, to analyze the things that we come before us. And then you have chit, the subconscious in us. And then you have the ahankar, the ego. These 4 fellas working together in a small little thing called the mind could really mess you up. So this is why I am saying this attack has to come from all around. From seeing, when you say, like I go by friend's house when I was a schoolboy. We go by friend's house. And the same thing we practice home, it was practiced by them. Not at the level we did it. So you try to kind of put your influence in them. Well, you know, this is the way to do it. This is the correct. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is gone from society completely.
No, simple things. How many people, when they go to someone's home, will they automatically take off their shoes before entering their home?
Strange enough, very few people.
And for us, growing up that way, some people may say we old timers, but it's natural. I won't enter a person's home with my footwear on.
I don't go in my own house with my shoes on. We tell you about other people.
You know, it's make a simple example of the way we've been conditioned over time.
But you know, now when we look back at it, like I always hear people saying, you don't sweep house after 6 in the evening, after 6 in the evening. And my father used to laugh when he heard that. One night a lamp fall on the glass, shattered the living room. He said, don't sweep it. Leave it just so. Walk through it. Tomorrow I'll carry you in the hospital, and they cut your foot open and they get out. He says, no, sweep it up and leave it in a corner one side. Tomorrow you go pick it up. We didn't understand the concept. Just as we didn't understand, don't cross people. People say don't cross people because they won't grow, they will remain short. Boss, that is not true. But there's a reason for it, and the reason was the Mahabharata. When Hanuman tell Bhim, well, cross over me and go now. Right? That is the reason that God exists in me and you shouldn't cross over.
Yeah, it's a sort of disrespect.
It's a sort of a disrespect. Yeah. So these are the things we have to re-establish. And this is what yada yada hi dharmasya is.
Even the idea of a child getting up on a morning, do our children bow on our feet? Or at least acknowledge you, Sitaram? You know, Ramayana has the prata kal utakera gunatha, mata pita guruna vahi mata. These concepts of showing respect, all these values that Krishna Bhagwan is really talking about, having us, is really repeated practice.
Of course.
To develop back in our lives.
That is what he was here for, to re-establish. So we are the ones who know what was done in our tradition, in our customs. We have to re-establish it now. Don't wait until it really go too far. Yanjananevam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasa shantira nirvana paramam matsanstam adigacchati. And when you practice in this way, Arjun, the end product is a thing called Nirvana. And there is a misconception that the word Nirvana came from Buddhism. That is not true. That is not true at all. The Gita was there long before Buddha landed here. But the point is, he extracted that from it and carried it to where he preached it. And we because we don't know ourselves, we think we are taking this from Buddhism. No, this is Sanatan. Internal peace, internal oneness with God is called Nirvana. Natmanattu na yogaste na chaikanta manashnataha na chati swapanashilasya jagrato naivacho arjuna. And this yoga, Arjun, is not possible for a person who eats too much. It is not possible for a person who eats too little. It is not possible for a person who sleeps too much, nor a person who sleeps too little.
Panditji, on that thought, let's just take a break, as we need now to break, and then we will continue from this point. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Krishna, welcome back. You are viewing Bhagavad Gita discussions. This is program number 11, and we are at chapter 6, verse 15. We now join Panditji as we continue from verse 16.
From verse 16. Natyana tattva yogaste na chaikanta manashnata na chati swapanashilasya jagrato naivacha arjuna. Now here Lord Krishna says that this yoga, this is not possible for a person who eats too much or who eats too little, for one who sleeps too much or one who sleeps too little. So this in itself tells us Sanatan Dharma is trying to make an all-round individual.
Balance.
A balance in life, balance in study, balance in recreation, in worship, in everything. Be it part of it. Not to stick to one thing and go on. You'll be useless in this world. Be an all-rounder. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya karamasu yukta swapanavodasya yogo bhavati dukkha. You must be moderate, Arjun, in eating, in recreation, in actions, in sleep, in waking hours. And this discipline will destroy pain for you.
He developed this idea more of balance in everything that we
That
do.
is what we, this is the culture we have to now inculcate back in. I remember as a young fella growing up, you go in Skinner Park on a weekend. In the first ground, you have Oriental playing somebody. In the second ground, you have Oxford playing somebody. On the third ground, you have Untouchables playing somebody. And on the last ground, you have amateurs playing somebody. So you had 4 cricket pitches in Skinner Park. Today it have none.
Same thing has happened in Arangwes.
Today it have none. Today Skinner Park, which was given to the people of San Fernando for sporting facilities. Today Skinner Park is now a carnival and chutney show, home for the chutney and carnival.
Changes like that have taken place in many places. Many
No,
cricket
those are not
competitions.
changes. Those are not changes. Those are things that were forced on people.
Well, Arangwes, I can speak for Arangwes. Arangwes Savannah had many pitches. Whereas now many of them have gone. Grade land, as we call it, which is where Pandit Haridev on his side, the pitches were turned into concrete, so they play wind ball. So I mean, even now you find a lot of the older folks like us, the old fogies, would talk about the early days of cricket. But that's I guess is a different topic altogether.
Arangwes Savannah is up by where Balram is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember hitting him Diaz Ali out of that ground already. You see, he was a leg spinner. He played for the West Indies. And
Yeah, he
the
did,
ball he
yeah.
bowled me with a full toss.
Yeah.
Hit him so many crazy. But the whole thing is about being an all-rounder, an all-round life. You see, we spend so much time in academics that at the end of the academics, we have to find means now to do other things. When in my era in school, there was a time for school, there was a time for play, there was a time for this, for everything. As a matter of fact, there was a time for religious instruction too. Now,
But achieving balance in life is something I think every one of our viewers must think about for themselves and look at where in your life balance may be lacking and how can you improve it. Krishna Bhagwan speaks about this in this verse 17, achieving that balance.
Yada viniyatamachetam atmanyeva tishtati nismriha sarvakamebhyo yukta ityujyati tada. And when the mind becomes disciplined, it rests on itself. It is freed from the desire for objects, the desire for gaining anything in this world. Then you have been established in yoga. Then you could talk about yoga. Yata deepo nivatasto nehingate sopamasmriha yogi no yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanaha. When you light a lamp and you put the shade on it, that light doesn't flicker. The same way, when the mind is established in the Supreme, that mind doesn't go astray, it doesn't flicker. So it tells us that the possibility of it flickering could happen. But if you are firmly established in it, you put that shade, the shade will protect the light. If the light is too high, the shade going to become black. So even though there is light, there is still darkness. So you have to be focused. And how do you do this, Arjun? Lord Krishna says, Yato paramate chitatam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chevatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati. When you are practicing this over and over, you attain an inner peace, a type of quietness that is misinterpreted to be weakness. When you behold the self, by the self, you are satisfied with the self. That is not weakness. Sukhamatyantikam yatya buddhi grahamatindriyam vetati yatra chaivayam stiraschalita tattvataha. Now, when you establish yourself in this samadhi, because that is the level it will be, that is what it will be called at that stage. Even though you are established in that samadhi, you are never removed from the reality of what's going on around you, and that is something this is something that's amazing to me, that even though you find people living in, I want to use the word seclusion, and you think they're not in touch with reality, that's further from the truth. They're more in touch with reality than you and I, who living in the so-called reality. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadikam tataha yasmin stito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalayet. Having attained this, he thinks that there is nothing greater to gain than what he has achieved. And having achieved that, nothing shakes him from that what he has achieved. Tam vidya dukasana yoga viyogama yoga sangitam sanishchayena yuktabhyo yogo nirvana chetasaha. Let this disconnection from union with pain be known in the name of yoga. Yoga should be practiced with determination and with an undistracted mind. I'll give you the simplest example. When I was a young fella growing up, there was a posture we always called the lotus posture. So I remember my father and my guru, and there's a Pandit called Radhakrishnan talking about his lotus posture. And I telling my mother, see, them three old men had to be real stupid. How hard it is to sit down and put your foot, cross your foot on the ground. And my mother laughed and said, try it now. So I do it. She said, that is not the lotus posture. I said, really? What is the lotus posture? When you cross your legs, your two heel should be by your hip. That is the lotus posture. You know what that means? That your knees don't touch the ground. No, that ain't no easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? But it's very painful. But when you practice it and practice it and practice it, then it becomes normal. Sankalpravanna kamasya tyakta saravana sheshata manase vendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. Abandon, Arjun. Abandon means to give up. Give up without reserve all desires born out of sankalp. And you try to curb, to control the mind, control the senses from all different attacks it's going to get. You know, sometimes you're trying to do things in a house and you have people in the house who cutting you down. So you will get attacked from all around. Shanai Shanai Du Paramid Bodhya Gritiya Gritaya Atma Sanstam Manam Kritva Nakinchadati Chintaye. When your intellect is firm, you will attain this peace little by little. Little by little. Think of nothing. Let it fall little by little. I remember in the 60s, there was a time when the whole country had no water. The whole country. And in the back of me, by the gas station, water, that one standpipe water was dripping coming there. Right? And we were glad to go there to get our water drop by drop. You understand? In the same way, little by little, drop by drop, you will acquire it. Do not think of anything. Once you make the effort, it is going to fall in place for you. Yato yato nishtarita manashchanchalamastitam tatastato niyamyedad manyeva vashamnaye. Whatever causes the mind to waver, that is what you should get rid of first. The first thing that the mind grasps, that is the first thing you get rid of. Sunday I was in a puja and attending people, you know, mango is not a nice thing to eat because mango have too much sugar. And the guy who here in the puja was a doctor. I said, Doc, how we should eat a ripe mango? He said, especially if it's a Julie mango, you cut off a face and you split the face in 4 and you eat quarter. I said, Doc, that is the right way to do it. Yesterday somebody bring 4 Julie mango for me. You really think I'm going to cut a face of a Julie mango and eat quarter? I licked down before one time. After I regret it. But the taste is so good. So this is why it says here, those things that you like the most, get rid of that first. Curb that first. And you subjugate it only for the self, the spark in you to benefit from it. Prashanta manasamahinam yogina sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutam makalamasham. This supreme bliss comes to those yogis whose mind is calm, whose passions are pacified, and who has become one with Brahman and one who is sinless. So there are certain preparations that the individual has to make to acquire God in you. And if you are not prepared to make the sacrifices for it, then you are wasting your time. Prepare yourself for it. Yunjananebam sadatmanam yogi bigata kalmasha sukhena brahma sansparasha matyantam sukhamashnuti. This is a constant practice, Arjun. Constantly engage yourself. The yogi who puts away sin, it is very easy for him to connect with the Supreme Brahman. You know, there's a concept, I think all of us know the concept, that somebody come with a child who hamal you. And you jar the child and the child get better. That is why Hinduism is all cooperating. Malju is a French word. Malju is not even Hindu. Because you are connected with certain mantras. Right? You could do certain things by chanting the mantras. This is what it says. That when you contact with the Brahman, there are certain things becomes very easy for you to achieve. Sarvabhutastayatmanam sarvabhutatmi chatmani ekshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshinaha. When the mind is in tune with the Supreme, you see yourself in every human being. And you see everything in you. You see you in everything, and you see everything in you. You become one with it. You become in harmony with this whole creation. You become in harmony with nature. And that is why we have always said in Sanatana Dharma, and now we are beginning to understand, when we were young and growing up and we building a house, and you hear the Pandit tell you, well, in those days were Pandits from India. Well, at so point in your house, plant this particular tree. Plant this tree here, plant this tree there. And that's exactly what we did. Now we know the reason why. Because of this global warming, the only thing could save you now is planting trees. So now we know the importance of it. You become in tune with what is around you. You have to be in tune with it. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. He who sees me everywhere, and he who sees all in me, he becomes never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to him. That is what we have to establish for our children. That don't believe God is a make-believe thing.
Yeah.
God is not
External
make-believe.
entity. Yeah.
You become one with him, and he will become one with you. He makes the journey safer for you. That is how we have to do it, because the terrible elements on the outside is very strong, and the temptation is great to achieve, for these things to happen.
Quite so.
Sarvabhutastitam yomam bhajate katmamastitaha sarvata vartamanopi sayoge mayi vartate. He who is established in this, he will worship me. How he will worship me? As the one who abides in each and every one. Let us push forward to chapter 18 of the Gita. Chapter 6 is saying, he worships me who abides in all. And chapter 18 says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridaya arjun tishtati, that God exists in the heart of all. So every chapter in the Gita, or every verse in the Gita, is pushing us in one direction, only to realize when we reach the destination is right where we started off. It's a whole circle. Now, when you worship me, do not look at the place that you live. However you live, wherever you live, that is your business. That is nobody's business when it comes to you and God. If you have to stand up, well, I don't think it has standpipe again. It has standpipe again in the country?
Yeah, it's a
It has still has standpipe. In my days, you had a bed by the standpipe. And you offer your jolly Friday. Now we get a little better. For some people, it has not. But whatever your mode of living, a lot of people believe that God is in some far-off place, real far from you, God not far from you. He's right there with you. Atma upampena sarvatra samam pashyati yo arjuna sukham vaya diva dukam sayogi paramo mataha. That yogi Arjun is to be regarded as supreme, who judges pleasure and pain everywhere. By the same standard that he applies to himself. Apply it to your life.
This is such a wonderful verse. And Panditji, I think at this point, we would conclude for today, as Arjun would be making his further inputs from verse 33. You have been watching Bhagavad Gita discussions. We have reached chapter 6, verse 32. Any final concluding comments before we finish today?
No, that's you close.
Yeah. All right, sure, no problem. So at this point, devotees, those who are following the Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, we have reached chapter 6, verse 32. We will continue from this point in our next program. In our next program, so before going forward, as we've been taking questions, if you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, anything you want us to deal with on air, then you can WhatsApp 784-9880, or you can call Pandit Vikram at 652-1043.
And we'll do a recap.
And we will, yes, I think in our next program, as Panditji suggests, we would recap chapter 1 to 5, and then we will continue. We thank you for viewing. We thank the sponsors for making their contributions to make this program possible. And we look forward to you joining us next time. Until then, Jai Shri Krishna.